Okay, so last time we went through some definitions, and we had the mnemonic S-O-H, so, C-A-H, co, and TOA, T-O-A, and that's how we got to remember our equations. You don't need to know where they come from, but you do need to know how to use a couple of them. Okay, and our definitions, obviously theta, the adjacent is here and the opposite is here. Psi, the adjacent is here and the opposite is here. And hypotenuse is always the longest side directly opposite the right angle 90 degrees. Okay, so the good thing with computer programming is that we only need two of these equations. We don't actually have to bother with the tan, so we can rub that out. We don't need it. Okay, so the only ones we need to know for a circle especially is sine and cos, and you can do lots of things with trigonometry with regards to computer games like flying aeroplanes, driving cars, tanks, rotating spaceships, and lots of other things. Okay, so to draw out our circle we actually need the sine and cos functions. Okay, but first a little bit about how to use them. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take away one of the angles, so we don't need to use, simply because we just don't need it. We don't need to use this angle. Okay, so I'm going to take it out there. Okay, so we don't need that either. Okay, so for example, if I knew what the hypotenuse was, the length of the hypotenuse, and I knew the angle, okay, and I wanted to find the length of the adjacent, I need to select the right equation. Okay, and in this case we know that it concerns the hypotenuse, the adjacent, and theta. So I simply use the cosine equations because it says hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse, and cos of the angle, which is theta. Okay, so I simply substitute these into there. Okay, into this equation. So I've got to decide which equation to use. So if I wanted to know, for example, the put it in a different color, I'd say I wanted to know, for example, the opposite, and I knew the hypotenuse and theta, I would use the sine equation. Okay, hypotenuse, theta, and opposite. Hypotenuse, theta, and opposite. Okay, so from this we can deduce that it's quite simple, with some simple algebra, that we can say that the hypotenuse multiplied times, that's a times by the way, times the sine of the angle theta, I'll just grab a theta, sine of theta is equal to, is equal to the opposite. Okay, because sine theta equals the opposite over the hypotenuse. You multiply both sides by the hypotenuse and you get this equation. And likewise, I can also say that the hypotenuse times cos theta, so we've got to put that equation there. So by looking at cos theta, we can say the hypotenuse times the cos of theta. Where's my pen? Okay, so hypotenuse times the cosine of theta is equal to get my pen, is equal to the adjacent. Okay, and that's just a simple rearrangement. Okay, so we have these two equations. So I now know, if I know my hypotenuse and I know theta, I can work out the adjacent and I can work out the length of the opposite. Okay, so I know theta, I know the hypotenuse, I can work out what the adjacent is and the opposite by using these equations. Okay, so how does this help us in Blitz Basic? Okay, the first thing about these functions is they are mathematical functions, sine and cos. Sorry, I'll do that in a different color. Sine and cosine are just mathematical functions. Okay, and they're actually available in Blitz Basic, and you just type them in, sine, and it will turn yellow. You put the brackets in, and then you put the angle that you want to discover what the sine of it is. Say sine 30, and it will give you an answer between -1 and 1. Okay, and it's the same with cos. When you type it in, it gives you cos, and it will give you another number depending on whatever angle you put in here. You can put any angle between 0 and 360, or even higher. It doesn't matter. These are cyclic functions that go on forever, and it will give you an answer between, it will oscillate between -1 and 1. Okay, and that's how you can work out the sides of any triangle. Why is this important though for doing a circle? Okay, I will go on to this in just a second. Okay, it's to do with calculating the x and y coordinates on a point on the circle. Now from this you can see that I've just made the equation smaller down here. Now you can see that if we draw a circle, okay, like I've done so here, you can see that this is the center of the circle, this orange dot here, and this red dot here is a point on the circle, and the hypotenuse here is the radius of the circle. Okay, so as sine and cos are cyclic functions, and they actually range from 0 to 360, in fact they actually go on forever. They're cyclic functions, and this is essentially what a cyclic function is. So if we define theta from 0 to 360 in our program in Blitz Basic, this dot will travel, this red dot will travel and trace out every single point on this circle. Okay? Sorry, just go around and trace every single point on this circle, like that. Okay, and we already have our equations on the side here. Okay, so it's very easy to see that hopefully it's very easy to see that this is our x coordinate and this is our y coordinate for that red point. Okay, so this is our center, and this is, we go across by x from the center, and we go down. Remember, in Blitz Basic it's down, but in maths it's up. Okay, so down by plus y and across by plus x. Now it should be quite easy, hopefully, to see that our x coordinate is our opposite. Sorry, our x coordinate is our adjacent, our y coordinate is our opposite, and our radius is equal to our hypotenuse. Okay, in this setup. So this is our radius, hypotenuse or radius. Okay, so that's actually our radius now. So if we call that radius, and we call our adjacent x, and our opposite y, we simply get the radius times sine theta equals y, and the radius times cos theta equals x. Or we can just simply rewrite the equation. So x, remember x is the adjacent, x equals the radius r times cos theta, and y equals r. If r is the radius, radius equals r times sine theta. Okay, so these are the equations for the x and y coordinate. Okay, so these are the ones we need to know for Blitz Basic, and that's really all there is to it. There's not much more to it than that. This is where we get the equations from. Okay, so you need to know that if you want to know the point on a circle, for the x coordinate is given by the radius times cos of theta, or the angle, and for the y coordinate it's r times sine theta of the angle, and that is it. That's all you have to know for Blitz Basic, okay, with regards to the maths. Okay, obviously you add the location of wherever it's at the center, which is defined by the x and y coordinates, but that's really it. Okay, so next we're going to start programming our clock.